Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for coming to watch. So I've got you guys an update on a massive storm system that is currently moving through the eastern U.S., as well as a big flash flooding event that is currently ongoing in the southern United States. And we also will take a look at what we could expect going into February, as things may ramp up once again as we get into the new month. All right, so thank you all for joining me here on this Wednesday evening. We've got a lot to talk about, guys. This is going to be a very long update, so skip ahead to any part of the video that you want to look at. But starting out here, we're taking a look at our current radar. You got a few things going on right now. One, the main show that we've got tonight is this big system that's moving across the eastern west. We'll start up north. All right, you can see that this is really into the interior northeast, but north. All right, so into portions of Vermont, New Hampshire, and then into Maine. We're dealing with very heavy snow, also going into portions of southeastern Canada, right by the border. All right, that's going to be north of our major areas and big cities, and it's not really going to be impacting the United States that much, so nothing to really be worried about there. But everybody else is seeing rainfall. It's going to start raining pretty hard down into New England, southern New England, and the rest of the Northeast is going to see some steady rainfall as we get through tonight. All right, in the Southeast, we've got a line of storms that's charging up from the Gulf Coast, really, and we see just a ton of rainfall. This is so much moisture that's getting pumped into the system, and we've just been seeing continuous rounds of rainfall and moisture, and this is just going to continue for a few days, and so that's why we're going to see so much dangerous flash flooding in this area. All right, but you can see that we actually are dealing with some severe thunderstorms as well. On this frontal line, I'm watching for some damage and wind gusts potentially moving through portions of central Alabama. This is going right up towards Atlanta in the northwestern Georgia area. So, it may get a little bit windier once those heavy bands of rainfall come in. But other than that, I think our severe threat should be down, but we'll talk about as another severe threat next week. All right. So we move on here to our alerts. All right, you can see that we're pretty busy right now in the eastern U.S., the central and eastern United States. Everybody, though, it seems like everybody, but a lot of people right now. I would say probably over 50 million Americans are currently under dense fog advisories right now. It's not a very uncommon alert to get, all right, but it definitely serves as a good purpose. This is going all the way up from really the Dakotas through all of Missouri, portions of the Midwest. You got Kansas, Oklahoma, northern Texas, Arkansas. You got portions of eastern and central Nebraska, portions of Iowa. I think I said that already. Illinois through southern Michigan, southern Wisconsin, Indiana. All right, and then you can see also portions of Ohio. Then this goes into the Northeast. Now you've got portions of PA. This is including Philadelphia. You got New Jersey, southern New England, including Long Island, New York City, and then the southern areas of New York State. And then even if you're closer to the border of PA, but you're still on, I guess you could say, upstate New York by the lakes, you're under that dense fog advisory. If you weren't sure, all right, this is what's in that gray shade. All right, it's also going to Arkansas. I think I mentioned that as well. Northern Mississippi and portions of western Tennessee. Now in this green shade, where things are a little bit more concerning, we have a aerial flood watch, basically just a flood watch that goes out for a specific area. This is going all the way up from you got portions of West Virginia included in its own flood watch, but then the main one is down here in the southeast, where we're going all the way up from southern Tennessee down through northern and central portions of Alabama, all of Mississippi, Louisiana, southern Arkansas, and then portions of eastern Texas under that flood watch. And I want you guys to look at this. These brighter colors here. Some of these are flood advisories, but if you go down here into Texas, guys, look how active we are. Look how many flash flood warnings, flash flood advisories there are, guys. It's crazy how, these are all flash flood warnings. Guys, those are all flash flood warnings in this green shade. All right, that is including areas just to the north of Houston. I just want to point that out, guys. We are seeing incredible rainfall rates out in this area, but this entire green shade of eastern Texas is under a flood warning that will continue throughout tonight. Flash flood warnings for portions of Gulf Coast of Mississippi and then into down eastern portions of Louisiana. All right, but yes, we are very busy out there. And then into the northeast, if you're in the interior northeast, up in the northern portions where the heavy snow is, got winter weather advisories going out for portions of Vermont, New Hampshire, really all of Maine, and then well upstate New York. All right, the rest of the United States pretty much calm for the most part. Although if you're in looks like if you're in western New Mexico, or sorry, eastern New Mexico, all right, you've got a freezing fog advisory, which is it's interesting. All right, you could check that out, but it's basically when it gets cold enough that you can actually the fog that you are dealing with can actually freeze. All right, and so we take a look here now. We'll look at the southeastern United States. We're looking at this big train of storms, guys. Been talking about this a lot. All right, but this was story 2 p.m. today. Look at all this incredible rainfall, though, moving over portions of Mississippi. This is also including portions of Louisiana. Watch as we continue throughout the day, and we don't see this line, kind of. Well, it's not left alone. All right, you've got a second line of storms coming up behind it. You got 1, 2, and you got 3. Look at all that. All right, you just got continuous rounds of moisture, and it's impacting the same area over and over again nonstop. That leads to flash flooding. That's why we have so many flash flood warnings that we've seen throughout today. And finally, we actually get our own central low, if you want to put it that way. Here's our low pressure system moving with that line of storms. Some of these may be severe getting into tomorrow morning. This is 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. It's raining and storming like crazy out there. Into portions of central and northern Louisiana, down into southern portions of Arkansas. Watch as that line continues pushing off to the north and east. And it just brings a lot of heavy rainfall through Mississippi. Mississippi's going to get hit very hard with these storms, and then getting into portions of western Tennessee with some prefrontal supercells that may be spinning. I think the atmosphere might be, mixing a little bit, twisting and turning, but I don't think I think Cape levels aren't that high. We'll take a look here. All right, hold up. All right, hold on, guys. Here we go. Yeah, so Cape levels are actually they're elevated. All right, and it's because of all that moisture. And here we go. You can actually see we're actually going to be spiking 2,000 joules per kilograms levels of Cape here. So there will be enough instability and enough just juice to keep these storms going. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw actually some tornado warnings in this area tomorrow. So yeah, watch it if you are in eastern Tennessee, if you're in western, even as far east as western North Carolina, but really portions of central eastern Tennessee, and then obviously northern Alabama, northern Mississippi. You could definitely have to keep an eye out for those storms. But we're getting into the late evening hours of tomorrow, and we're finally seeing a break of these storms as that last low moves out. And you may be wondering, are we going to get another round of moisture? Well, we do, but it's just not as significant, and it's trying to come up from the Gulf It's bringing a lot of moisture into that. It'll probably be raining like heck out there into the Gulf Coast of Louisiana, Mississippi. Once again, all right, we're gonna see flash flood warnings, no doubt about it, on Friday morning. All right, before that kind of just breaks apart. All right, so yeah, you got just rounds of moisture coming up, and if you take a look at the OZ run from this morning, this came out the middle of the night last night into today. Just look at how much rain we've seen throughout the day. That's like 4 or 5 just lines of rainfall. We have to go back even to yesterday where this all started, right? And by waking up yesterday morning, it was still raining very hard in this area. So we're probably going to be dealing with 3 to 4 days straight of very heavy rainfall. That's pretty crazy, guys. All right. So taking a look here at your excessive rainfall map, this is basically showing us where the best chance for flash flooding is. We're up to a moderate 40% chance of flash flooding in this red shade. That, I've been under a moderate risk for flash flooding before, and it was nothing like I've seen before. And where a lot of people are under that today, and going into portions of western Alabama near the Black Bell area. All right, which basically just this region here, that's just to the south of cities like Montgomery, Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, in Alabama. That's off to the south and west of you guys. All right, this is going through the state border of Louisiana, Mississippi, or sorry, Alabama and Mississippi. This goes into southern Mississippi, where you've got areas just to the south of Jackson, but you've got Hattiesburg, Mississippi. All right, this goes into Louisiana here, central and southern Louisiana, including Alexandria, Lake Charles, Lafayette, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, New Orleans. All right, notice how these are all areas that we saw get become impacted by those just those rounds of storms, and they did extend this moderate risk out into eastern Texas, which I think should be extended a little bit more. I think this Houston should be in this area, the Woodlands. I don't see Bryan State College all the way out into central Texas, to become under this risk, but definitely a little bit farther off the west. I think just I think it's you should do that to be safe. But these are the professionals, so I'm gonna leave it be. All right. But if you're in this yellow area, this is your slight risk, at least a 15% risk of flash flooding. This is going all the way up from northwestern Georgia down through Atlanta, oh my gosh, sorry, Alabama through the rest of Mississippi. This is going through central Mississippi. All right, portions of northern Louisiana, and then the rest of eastern Texas. This is including Houston. This is including Jackson, Mississippi, Birmingham, Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama. All right, and cities like that, and surrounding areas of that. For in the green shade, you're gonna get hit by heavy rain tonight. All right, but it's just gonna be a very wet day, and that's just about a 5% risk of seeing flash flooding. Now, day 2 outlook, this is for tomorrow. We're going to probably get upgraded. I think by tomorrow morning, this should be up to a moderate risk once again. Similar areas, just a little bit shifted off to the east, or that's where our focus is going to be. But this is now going into the Carolinas a little bit, but going up towards southern Tennessee. Notice it's also that area that we're watching for severe storms with those cape levels being elevated. I think that there's a chance for maybe some brief spin ups in just because of the atmosphere being a little bit unstable. But yes, I think somewhere in here we're going to see a moderate risk come up by tomorrow. But yeah, about the same areas: Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and portions of Mississippi and southeastern Louisiana. All right, day 3 outlook. All right, we have that that like fourth or fifth round of moisture that we saw failed to get up overland that much, but we see a slight risk become issued because of it. Nothing too crazy with that. That I don't think that will get upgraded to a moderate risk, but once again, it's that same area we saw in the NAM. And then yeah, by day 4, which is going to be Saturday to Sunday. All right, that's pretty much going to be the end of our chances for flash flooding. All right. So we take a look here at your current rainfall totals. This is crazy, guys. I mean, some of us may have not seen this much rain in this area. I know this looks crazy, but I really need to break this down enough for you guys, because look at these numbers. Oh my gosh, look at this, guys, in Louisiana. Remember, we've already seen inches of rainfall. Some of us have seen 5+ inches of rainfall, all right? So let's say you add 3 inches to some of these totals. You're getting over 10 inches of rainfall in just 3 or 4 days. That's like, that should be really, right around half a year's worth of rainfall. But that's in 3 to 4 days. I mean, that's incredible. But starting out here in Louisiana, look at this, central Louisiana. We're going for 9 inches of rainfall. Have you ever heard of 9 inches of rainfall, guys? This is insane. Going up through central and northern Louisiana, we're going for about 8.5 inches. I mean, it's just crazy that I'm actually, talking about this. All right. But you can see, let me put this back. All right, we can see that going into Alabama, Mississippi, we're still talking about similar totals, getting right around, I would say 5 to 8 inches of rainfall. If you're in that tan or brown shade, guys, please make sure that, if you are under a flash flood warning, stay off those roadways. If you are on those roadways when one gets issued, turn around, don't drown. That's all I can really say. And just try and find best. You know what you should do. You should obviously find higher ground, we should probably, find a place to stay until the rainfall just stops. All right, until the flash flood warning expires. But that's really all you can do. That's why you really want to stay off those roadways. But we're talking about rainfall totals in excess of 5 inches for really the majority of Louisiana, except if you're on the northern border area or if you're on the southern state area, you'll still be talking about 2 to 4 inches. But if you're in central portions or northern portions of Louisiana, you may be dealing with up to 8 inches of rainfall. That's crazy. But northwestern Alabama, similar total, 6 to 8 inches. But central and southern Alabama should stay, should be okay, about 2 to 4 inches. It's still a lot of rain, still definitely enough to cause flash flooding. Northwestern and northern Georgia, I would say 2 to 4 inches as well. And then going up into Tennessee, we're talking about, I would say 4 to 6 inches, but if you're down here towards the border of Alabama and Mississippi, you may be dealing with a little bit higher, maybe getting up to 6, maybe 7 inches of rainfall. That's just insane, guys. It's crazy, but we could still be dealing with several inches of rain. Well, maybe not that much, but definitely up, an inch, half an inch to an inch, all the way out towards the Outer Banks of North Carolina and just the Carolina coast in general. Right, but if you're in extreme southeastern Texas, like right up towards Louisiana, so the um, so kind of areas just to the east of Houston, we're definitely talking about 2 to 4 inches. Some areas will see over 5 inches. Some areas may even see 7.5 inches of rain. That's just crazy, guys. All right. I apologize if this video is going slow. I've had a very long day, very long week, so I'm a little tired as well. So I just want to get this in for you guys. But talking about the Northeast here with that system, it's coming in, bringing some light to moderate freezing rains, some ice out there into Vermont, New Hampshire. Nothing too crazy other than just some steady rainfall in the interior Northeast. Coastline is seeing on and off rain today. Pretty boring weather, to be honest. Way too warm. It's kind of a gross and disgusting day out here. It's January. We want to be dealing with snow, but we're not. We got snow. All right. I'll tell you guys, I did get snow. I measured like 2.5 inches on that last system a few days ago, or a few weeks ago, I guess, like a week ago by now. All right, but yeah, that's pretty much it. And we're dealing with rainfall for the next few days. If you'll notice, if you look at your weather app, whatever app you use, you'll see that the next few days, are calling for rainfall. Well, that's pretty accurate because you can actually see that we're dealing with two systems. That first one, it's still going to be with us by the time we get into late tomorrow. All right. I mean, we're getting to like the evening hour. We'll approach the evening hours of tomorrow. This is still trying to pull off the coast. Maybe thinking that you're out of the woods here, but no, you're here. Your second storm's coming up. That might even bring some heavier rain to some areas. It'll bring similar, precipitation into portions of Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. We're dealing with snow, some heavy into Maine, all right, in the mountains here of the interior Northeast, some freezing rain and some sleet mixing in as well by Friday, and then that system will be moving out, and most of us should be dry after Friday, about 12 p.m. midday Friday. We should be dry, all right? So we now look at severe weather, all right? So we saw that there was some chance for severe weather. I'll take this back to the day one outlook. So we were actually up to a slight risk today for severe weather. That got downgraded because the threat for severe weather has decreased for tonight, but you're still up to a marginal risk, level 1 out of 5. Nothing too crazy. You got 2% tornado risk, 5% wind risk, and a 5% damage and hail risk, right? Day 2 outlook doesn't really look anything too crazy. Tornado threat, though. Guys, remember, this is where I think those brief spin-ups may be possible. Notice how that tornado threat, it's not elevated, but it's bigger, all right? There's a more widespread area. We're not saying it's a tornado outbreak. I'm not saying this is going to be a significant event, but there is a chance for a spin-up or two somewhere in this area of Mississippi, Alabama, or Louisiana. I think this will get extended up to Tennessee. We'll look at the day 3 outlook in just a bit. All right, but that wind outlook, same area, 5% risk. And then the hail, we don't really have a hail threat for tomorrow. And then by day 3 outlook, we don't really have any chance for severe weather as of today. So, yeah, with that first system, nothing too crazy. But this is what I'm kind of concerned about. All right, you may be wondering why or do we already have a slight risk on day 4? Well, this is not a common sight to see, but it's definitely not uncommon. I wouldn't say it's rare, all right? But it's definitely not common, all right? If you want to put it that way, we've seen this before. We dealt with this before. Sometimes, when we get a 15% risk, for day 4 to 8 severe weather outlook, all right, sometimes it can play out and just continue to become more enhanced, and the threat just continues to increase, and sometimes it kind of just stays the same. One time we actually dealt with, we had a day 5 slight risk, and it stayed as a slight risk. All right, the entire like 5 days that the forecast was valid for. So yeah, but anyways, you got a 15% risk, which is equivalent to a slight risk for severe weather into portions of eastern Alabama to western Georgia here. This is including Atlanta. This is including Birmingham, Columbus, and Dothan out there in Alabama. But this is going out for Saturday. So all Saturday into Sunday. All right. We already have a slight risk for severe weather. I'll continue to keep you guys updated on what happens here with this forecast. We'll see what the models are talking about with this, with this coming up. We'll look at the CAPE levels, obviously. I'll give you guys more details on this in future updates. All right, but moving on here to the NAM 3 kilometer model, we're looking at the Northeast. Want to look at that rainfall, guys. These totals in the Northeast not nearly as impressive, but we're still dealing with anywhere from really an inch to 2 inches for everybody in that purple shade. Everybody in that blue shade, about about a half an inch to an inch of rain expected. But if you're down towards Ohio, the Ohio Valley, even into portions of PA, you may be dealing with 2 to 4 inches at that high end amount, especially in southern Ohio, where our forecast appears to be right around 3 inches. That will be going into northern Kentucky and northern portions of West Virginia. But it's really nothing that's too crazy, nothing that's really catching my eye. You may see some higher amounts in the portions of southern New England off the coast of Long Island, Connecticut. All right, maybe even into far interior portions of western Massachusetts. But yeah, it's really not looking like anything too crazy. For any of you guys that just skipped ahead to this portion of the video, it's not snow, guys. We're not looking at snow totals. These are rainfall totals. It's just too warm for snow. All right, it's not cold enough. So I want to take a look quickly at the Western United States before we move on to the second half of our update. I want to take a look at something that's been catching my eye quite considerably today. I'm noticing a threat for an atmospheric river. I know we dealt with one last winter that was catastrophic. We had a few days with high level 4 to 4 risks for flash flooding sometimes into California. That was crazy, guys. But I think there's a chance for an atmospheric river. It's not going to be as intense, but there's definitely a chance for it, and I'll show you guys here. So you got one system moving up in the Pacific Northwest, but notice how you got a system right on its heels. All right, so you got two systems. Here comes the second one. This one looks a little bit stronger, 995 millibar low, but the flow of the moisture luckily is steering these storms away from the west coast and up towards Canada, because that moisture stream is moving up north, or up to the northeast, rather than kind of like that. All right, if we saw a moisture stream that was heading right for the west coast, obviously the storms would take that track, and we would see a lot more rainfall in this area. And I think San Diego, guys, just broke the record for the wettest day, with the wettest January day in the city's history. All right, picked up about 3 inches of rainfall. But yeah, that's a strong system off the coast. When you see these ice bars that are tightly packed, very condensed, but very dynamic looking, that's a strong system. It's very big, but that's a bare miss. But here it comes. There's that moisture stream. Look at this. You got cold air nearby and a little disturbance here. That's going to disturb your jet stream, and bam, Look at that. All right, now you've got moisture coming into impacting the West Coast with a low that's pretty well positioned for areas up in the Pacific Northwest to get hit. And yes, we do see a big storm get hit, or a big storm impacts the Pacific Northwest. But notice you just have storm after storm. That's like one. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and We'll continue the run, but 7. That's a lot. All right, excuse me, but I think as we get into the first few days of February, this may come to an end. So yeah, it's not looking like anything too crazy, but just keep watching this, guys, because I mean this storm, right around February 1st, this one looks pretty nasty. A lot of mountain snow would be with this one. A lot of moisture, I can tell. All right, you got cold air coming in behind it. That may even change some of this rainfall to snow if this were to play out for areas around the mountains. All right, but yeah, that would be a washout for areas on the West Coast. And if you look at the dew points, we'll look at the relative humidity, guys. This is a little bit up in the air, but anyways, just want to see the moisture. So the blues, obviously, or the greens, I should say, that signifies moist air. Look at all that. You got deep shades of green. You got a lot of dry air, though. Some of these high pressure systems that are dotting portions of the central and western United States. But, it's with these storms, there's just so much moisture from the Pacific. Because remember, we're in an El Nino right now. All right, and the El Nino is right now, and it's strong. It's probably its strongest phase. This is probably where we're going to be spiking our El Nino. It's very strong, so that right now these Pacific waters are just loaded with moisture, and we're going to start to see just a train of storms impact the West Coast, and then some of these storms may end up becoming cross country and impacting the central and eastern half of the United States. All right, so for the final part of the update, I want to take a look at here a slight pattern change that we may enter getting into February. So we'll recap what just happened here in January. So we came into January hoping for cold air because remember December was way too warm, for comfort. All right, and then January, obviously we got the bang. All right, we got a big Arctic outbreak. All right, that basically had two Arctic blasts that came through, two Arctic fronts. The polar vortex did spill into the United States. It was a pretty perfect pattern that set up for us. So that was a good right just about a week of January where we were in widespread below average temperatures. Then we went to more widespread warm air, and now that's basically what we're in now. But we're watching for another potential blast of cold. I wouldn't say blast of cold air, but another potential time period or I should say pattern change that could support more cold air. So these are height anomalies. We're taking a look at where high pressure may be, which is blocking, and then where low pressure may be, which signifies storminess. So we actually see a signal for a deep trough to come down through the southwest here on the European model. This is just getting into today. And notice how this really fails to do anything. It comes in hot through the southwest, but it's getting blocked by all this ridging. You can actually see it pushing up on this blue line. This is your northern branch jet stream. All right, you got a lot of ridging starting to bump up into this area, and it just gets very intense right over the northeastern United States. That's going to push up on that jet stream. All right, now if you have this troughing out there in the west, and this gets a little bit more stronger, I think that there's a chance that if there's cold air nearby, this jet stream down here could actually begin to dip, and we may see cold air start to enter the western United States. Now we see if that happens on the European model, and no, because there's just too much blocking nearby. But there's still a signal for a weak storm or two to move through that extended Pacific jet stream. Right now, El Nino is playing out kind of exactly what we expected. We're seeing storms, a lot of these storms taking that southerly track. That's what we see with this potential storm coming up. And then we see a deepening low pressure. There's that 540 line building right over the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. But now you've got a very tall ridge. This is a very strong ridge. We're seeing a lot of ridge, and this is not a favorable pattern. But notice we're still in January, so I think by February things may change. And then we're going to be taking a look at an extended, we're going pretty far into the future, but look at that ridge. That's very strong ridge, very strong ridge. I said wedge. That very strong ridge moving up into the eastern and the central United States. Now you do have a trough though in the east. This is a signal for a snowstorm because look, you've got little, you're gonna in the wintertime you're gonna see little shots of cold air spill into the eastern U.S. and hit the northeastern U.S. So we've been dealing with the storm track kind of tilting up with those storms riding the coastline, and then we've talked about the nor'easter threat. Now, if we do see one of these shots of cold air that match up or meet up with one of these troughs, which we see here on the European model, that's the recipe for a snowstorm. So in this case, if we were to see this is right around January 29th. This is a Monday. There's a chance. I would say there was a signal for maybe an East Coast snowstorm. All right, that's on the European model, but that ridge is continuing to pump farther north into Canada. But you've got another storm in the west. All right, this is going to allow for a wavy jet stream. This is going to be a weak jet stream. A strong jet stream is a stable kind of it's a stable jet stream that doesn't really become wonky like this. Look how tall that is, and then it falls down like that. That's your jet stream, and that's very active. All right, but it's with this system coming out of the west where we see everything changes. That ridge, it's moving out of the eastern west, and boom, look at that. You got cold air that's going to be allowed to move into the western United States. You're going to see more storms, more room for those storms to move in. And if you see this jet stream, these ice bars, you see more of our members start to appear here. All right. And you can see that with these isobars, all right, you can see that extended Pacific jet stream may become active, and I think we're going to go back to that. What we've been in that storm track, but I think we're going to go back to those shots of cold air that may come in as we get into February. All right, so I hope I explained them the best way possible. Now we look at the GFS on your temperature anomalies. That was your height anomalies. Now we look at our temperature anomalies. So notice how we continue through January. There's that ridge in the east. It's screaming out there into Canada and the northern United States. We don't see any signs of cooler air throughout the rest of January. All right, maybe, but there's that one little shot of cold air that's right around where that European model was showing. There it is in the eastern United States. It's strong, and your storm system, here it is, your low. You can actually see, even on the temperature anomalies, you can kind of make out the shape of that low with cold air packed right into that low. All right, there it is, and you got cold air setting up in the northeast. Now, if we were to see this become a stronger system with a low a little bit off the coast, I think that's a chance for maybe a big snowstorm in the East Coast. We'll watch that. All right, and if you look at the precipitation moisture, we do get a system that we've been watching. We've been watching a chance for a system in this time frame. All right, but nothing really crazy comes together, and that's why we don't see any big snowstorm. All right, what happens after that? Well, here's your final days of January 31st. You've got very high above average temperatures out there in Canada, building into Canada. The west, the north, and the south are baking, and the east coast is hanging on to dear life for cooler air. And then now this is going to be that last final hurrah for the warm air before here comes that. Yep, there's that pattern change in the west. The GFS and the European model both agree, and it's funny. You can see the model agreement's very, very well done. Because the European model, we were looking at height anomalies. The European model showed pretty much exactly what the GFS model is showing here. And the GFS model we're not looking here at the height anomalies, we're looking at the temperature anomalies. So two different models looking at two different things, yet you can still see that they're showing the same idea for what could be happening in the future. That's very good model agreement. So we have a pretty good idea of what we may be dealing with here in the first few days of February, the first week. And we see a lot of cold air start to come into the western United States. Now, if we see that storm, if we see the potential atmospheric river continue, all right, that could definitely shape up for some monster snowstorms in the west. All right, monster snowstorms. So we're seeing very below average temperatures out there in the west. And if we get a storm system that can bring that cold air through the eastern United States, we may start January off very, very cold. All right. So we look at now the we'll look at the surface precipitation here on the GFS. I'm not watching for any major systems specifically. There's a signal for the one in the northeast. It brings snow for areas of the interior northeast. Brings rain with that low off the coast here on those coastal regions, and it kind of does it kind of just falls apart as it moves out. All right, so I'm not watching for anything else. But towards the end of this run, I'm watching for maybe a decent chance for a small signal for a big system though. Here it is. All right, you got a deepening low, 997 millibar low with a lot of moisture, just a lot of moisture, a lot of energy flying around. We see if this pulls its act together, and it does, and we get a big system in the central United States. That's something to watch. But yeah, that's something to watch. That's something that the GFS has been hinting at, poking at for a few days. We'll continue to watch the signal for that. But yeah, I'm not watching. I'm not really seeing any storm system that I'm focusing in on. I'm just watching for what may result because of this pattern change. We still don't even know exactly if the pattern change is going to happen, and if it does, what exactly it's going to bring. So we got to figure that out first. Got to keep grinding. We just got to take this, one day at a time. All right. So finally, for the last part of the update, we take a look here. This is your 32-day snowfall outlook. This is nothing to get hyped up about. This is nothing that I want to get for views, nothing that I'm trying to get for subscribers. This is just something that we're looking at for a signal. This is on the European model. Notice how 2 areas are above average. All right. Everybody's seeing snow at this point, though. All right. You can see we're seeing snow all the way down to the Gulf Coast. But, all right, the western United States, we saw how the cold air really got to sink in getting into February. And this is beyond the end of that of the European model run that we looked at. Now, we weren't sure exactly if the European model was going to continue with that cold air or if it was going to bring any storms in with it. And it looks like it does, because you got very high snowfall totals out there in the west. I'm not going to get into specifics, but, definitely above average mountain snow. But everybody else still seeing in these pink shades, you're still talking about, definitely, maybe up to multiple feet. If you were to go out to, the end of the first week of February, even in the Northeast too. Look at this. You got a big signal for a feet or two of snow out there in some areas. All right. Also in the Midwest, we're dealing with inches of snowfall going out into February, even in the deep South. All right, in the areas that saw that winter storm just a few days ago, could be going for a few more inches with maybe another system into February. We just gotta figure it out. Gotta keep grinding, and I'll keep you guys posted on whatever happens weather-wise across the country. So thank y'all for coming to watch. That's all I got for you guys. All right, stay tuned. I got tons more updates to go. All right, we're gonna be talking about this pattern change a lot. Talking about the potential for any snowstorms, some cold air to come in, and just what's gonna be happening as we get into February, and the fact that winter is not over. Don't give up. All right, we're still here. Winter is still here. We're gonna see cold air that will return. It's just a matter of when we get that significant pattern change. All right, so thank you all for coming to watch, and I'll see you guys next video.